Hello students and welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Shafali Nagpal from Bhagat Phool Singh Mahila Vishwavidyalaya. Today we are going to talk on international business, its meaning, difference and importance from the paper International Business Operations. After studying this module, you will be able to understand what is the difference between domestic and international business, approaches to the international business, benefits of international business, adverse effect of international business, barriers to international business. In the present time of multipolar world, where more and more economies of the world are moving towards the free market regime, there is an increasing movements of goods and services across the nations. In order to understand international business, it is pertinent to review the concepts of the business activities. The study of international business aims at understanding the business operations as they operate in international context. It refers to all those business activities which involve cross-border transaction of goods, services, resources between two or more than two nations. The transaction of economic resources include capital, skill, people, technology, and many other for the international production of physical goods and services such as finance, banking, insurance, construction, etc. According to the Wikipedia, international business is a term used to collectively describe all commercial transactions like private, government, sales, investment, logistics and transportation that takes place between two or more than two regions, countries or nation beyond their political boundaries. Usually, private companies understand such transactions for profit. Government undertake them for the profit and for political reasons. International business can be defined as exchange of goods and services among individuals, business in multiple countries. According to the Business Dictionary, international business firm is defined as a specific entity such as multinational corporation or international business company that engages in business among the multiple countries. Although the same principle apply to the business of goods and services in domestic and the foreign businesses, there are some special considerations which must be borne in mind while preparing strategies for penetrating in any foreign markets. Even advanced countries like USA, UK which have highly developed markets faced with the severe competition in international markets from the other countries like Japan, Germany. We have to identify who are our prospective buyers, who and where they are. Second is development of the product or services. Third is pricing of those products and services and the terms of use of these products. And fourth is marketing activities. As a firm moves across the nations, it is confronted with increasing uncertainties and risk. There are differences in taste, preferences of the consumer, languages, culture, diverse economic conditions, laws, and other multitude of factors. There are increasing investment in terms of money and marketers to those who have to wait and work hard before getting the success. Moreover, international business has diverse forms of methods and their choice depends on many factors. Although international business entails similar basic concept and practices as the domestic business do, these concepts and practices cannot be applied into the international businesses as there is a risk of being a failure. Therefore, a firm has to carefully analyze various factors before launching itself into the international markets. Now let us understand the difference between the domestic and the international business. Both in domestic as well as international business, both begins with the consumer and end with the consumers. The success of business depend upon satisfying the basic requirement of the consumer. It is also necessary to build goodwill both in the local and in global markets. The striking difference between international and domestic business lies in the environment in which the two take place. The important point of differences are: first, trade across sovereign countries. Each country is sovereign political entity and therefore several restrictions are imposed by them for importing and exporting the goods and services in order to safeguard their national interest. The traders in international business have to observe such restrictions. They may be of the following categories, like imposition of the tariffs and customer duties on import and export of goods and services in order to make them costly in importing countries and ban their entry in the country completely. By the effort of WTO, there has been a significant reduction in tariff globally and on regional barriers basis due to the emergence of regional economic groupings. Second, quantitative restrictions are also imposed with an intention to restrict trade in some specific commodities with the objective of protection of home industries from the competition of the foreign commodities. Third, exchange control is another restriction imposed by almost every sovereign state. The government, in some cases, does not ban the entry of the goods in the country, but the importer is not allowed the necessary foreign exchange to make payment for the goods imported. Second difference is diverse legal system. The countries have different set of legal setup. They have different documentation system, tariffs and practices. The international marketers have to understand these differences and also to comply with them. The third difference is based on the monetary system. Every country has its own monetary system and the exchange rate for each country's currencies are fixed under the rules framed by the International Monetary Fund. Therefore, there are more or less fixed. Recently, the value of the rupee has undergone significant devaluation against dollars. While the exporter gained from this, the importers suffered the losses. They have to cater for such uncertainties. The government keeps on changing their rates so that they may create a balance in the economy. Next point is lower mobility of vectors of production. Mobility of different vectors of production is less between nations than the home country itself. However, with the advent of the air transport, the mobility of the human resources has increased manyfold. The next is difference in the market characteristics. The market characteristics are different in each segment. That is, they have a different demand pattern, channels of distribution, methods of promotion, etc. They vary from one market to another. If we take each country a separate market, we can assume different market characteristics there. These differences are further increased due to the existence of the government controls and regulations. However, there is a difference of degree only. The next difference is in the procedure and the documentation. Every country has its own laws and customs of trade, and they have a different procedures and documentary requirement for the import and export of the goods and services. The traders residing in the territory have to comply with these regulations and customs if they want to import and export goods and services. Having seen the above point of differences, we can say that two business systems, international and domestic, are quite different, as each country has to protect its own interest, political and financial. It has to put certain restriction on foreign trade, import to the trader are quite different as compared to the domestic business. Restrictions are also there in the domestic business, but the procedure, systems, rules, regulations are applied equally in all parts of the country, and these are well known to the traders concerned. Let us understand the various approaches to the international business. The difference in the international orientation and approach can be used to categorize the international business into different forms. Domestic company may initially start with ethnically close markets and extend its operation across the world in its final stage. There are following concepts explaining internationalization of our businesses. First is domestic market extension concept, which is also known as ethnocentric concept. Second is multi-domestic market concept, which is also called as polycentric concept. Third is global marketing concept, which is also called as regiocentric concept. Let us now study the three approaches to international business. Let us study the first, that is the domestic market extension concept. The companies guided by this are casual players in the overseas markets. For them, the overseas markets serve as a units for directing surplus production. They use overseas markets as a buffer for checking the demand fluctuation in the domestic market. The main focus of the company remains the domestic markets. This concept is usually preferred by small companies or even by the large companies operating in a competitive industry. The overseas operations of such companies are usually restricted to export in certain niches, such as approach is also known as ethnocentric in the EPRG scheme. The second approach is multi-domestic marketing or the polycentric concept. As the overseas operations of the companies grow, they recognize the need for the different approach to international business. The operations of the company can acquire forms of overseas joint ventures, licensing agreements, overseas manufacturing and marketing. The subsidiaries operating in the overseas markets are recognized as independent business units with autonomy to operate in their markets. Within their respective markets, the subsidiaries behave as domestic companies, deriving only strategic guidelines from their head offices. The companies usually become multinational corporations at this stage. The controls are decentralized to facilitate local operations under the EPRG scheme. Such firms are classified as polycentric. The third approach is global marketing concept. As the companies direct their approach to become a global company, they acquire a global perspective in their operations. Such companies look for the lucrative business and investment opportunities on global basis. They derive synergy by sourcing the resources from across the globe by selecting those markets which can provide the inputs to the business in most cost-effective manner. Such companies do not treat the SBUs operating in the different markets as totally independent entities, but as the SBUs which are contributing towards the growth of the company as a whole. The certain degree of the control and policy matters may extend to all the SBUs. Although alliances may be made to accommodate the regional diversities, under the EPRG scheme, the global companies are often classified as regiocentric or geocentric companies. Now let us see what are the benefits of the international business. There are several benefits which can be drawn from the international business and can be studied from the diverse perspective, both at the micro as well as a macro level. The macro level implications accrue to the nations and economies, while micro level advantages are for the individual firms. Let us have a discussion to explain the micro and the macro level benefits of the international business. Let us first describe the macro level benefits. The international trade result in macroeconomic affairs for each economy. The import and export influence the employment, national income, and technology. The direct and indirect benefits emanating from the international business are given below. First is increase in the national income. A country's export activity promotes industrial and trade activity that generate employment and income for the various sections of the society. The multiplier effect of the income increases the level of output and growth rate of economy. Especially the export of the wage goods can help a developing country to break the vicious circle of poverty and raise the real income of the country. The second benefit is efficiency. While exporting, the country tries to attain specialization in production of the goods. In this process, there is an optimum and efficient utilization of resources. The limited domestic business may act as a deterrent to the growth of industry and resultant underutilization of resources. The international trade can help the industry to grow and achieve the scale and experience the economies. The third benefit is the generation of employment. Export constitute a significant proportion of the different nations and breed opportunities for more and gainful employment. In addition to the reducing direct unemployment, foreign trade reduces underemployment. For example, export of Swiss watches engages the farmers in the watch industry during their free time, resulting into gainful utilization of their skill. The next benefit is increased linkages. The staple story of economic growth recognizes that the foreign trade result into the increased backward and forward linkages with the other sectors of the society. The industrial and the trade linkages cause the development of the new industries and enhance the efficiency of the existing industries. The fifth benefit is optimal utilization of the resources. International business makes possible the utilization of the agricultural resources as the farmers get the greater access to the overseas markets. This transforms even the subsistence sector into monetized sector, raising the standard of living of the rural populations. The strength of the Indian agriculture are likely to open new vistas of the business opportunities in the days to come, and the world trade is likely to become more liberalized as a result of the WTO provisions. Another benefit is the educative effect. Export and international business exposes the executives to the overseas markets, which develops greater skills in them. This removes a great hindrance, often acknowledged as greater than scarcity of capital goods. The entrepreneurial and the management expertise generally helps an economy grow faster, and traditional factors of production can be used more effectively. The next benefit is to promote the foreign direct investment. The level of international business of a country often becomes a basis for the flow of FDI in any country. In today's economic environment, it is difficult to grow in the absence of foreign direct investment. Several economies has grown heavy investment from other parts of the world. Another benefit is it stimulates the competition. It fosters healthy competition and helps in checking inefficient monopolies. It is established that growth of competitive economies is higher than the growth rate of prospective economies. In the recent times, the nations have realized the benefit of healthy competition. Several developing and communist countries are promoting the same, switching over to the market-led growth, which involves substantially international operations in business, service, and technology. The another benefit from the international business is the technology sourcing. In today's rapidly changing world, it is important to keep pace with the change in technology. This is possible only when there exist the linkages with another national economies through international trade and business. The technology-driven industries such as information technology, telecommunication, automobiles derive immense synergy by their participation in trade across the world. Now, let us discuss the micro-level benefits or micro-level effects of international business. The first is growth. By all standards, domestic markets have limitation of growth potential. After the particular level, it is very difficult for a firm to achieve growth. So, it is left with the option of either product innovation or extending operation to other markets. The latter option is a better way of sustaining growth, as the product life can increase significantly when it is sold into the world's market. The second effect is fighting competition. As the protectionist measure by the nations are being reduced, the firm operating in the domestic market only are facing increased level of competition. Instead of utilizing their resources and fighting competition, firms continue to look at the markets in other countries to cope up with the domestic competition. Hence, international business operations provide avenues for both survival and growth. Another effect is increased efficiency. By operating on a global scale, a firm can select for its expansion lucrative opportunities. Also, it can reduce its product cost through global sourcing and utilize world-level technology and talent for business operations. All this makes the business operations more efficient, and as a result, it can realize higher return per unit in investment. This boosts up shareholders' value and the company image. The next effect is on the scale of economies. Higher level operations on account of international operations produce benefits of scale and thus enhance the profitability of any firm. It leads to innovation. So that means innovation is also an effect of the international business. By operating in large markets, companies can afford to invest in research and technology development. It is established that compared to the traditional and mindset firms, innovation-driven firms can compete very effectively. The another effect is the coverage of the risk. By operating on the global scale, the fluctuation of demand level in one individual country does not make much difference on aggregate scales. Consequently, the uncertainties arising out of the risk factors on the operations localized to the country are reduced. Even the financial risk, physical risk, politico-legal risk, etc. can be managed more effectively by the virtue of global operations. Global symbiosis. Over a period of time, the mindset for achieving self-sufficiency as a national goal has been given way to attaining synergies from global interdependence. The countries have realized the benefits accruing from fostering a healthy symbiotic relationship based on the mutual gains for both countries. The goal of self-sufficiency for yesteryears was right in those times, but with the contemporary changes sweeping business and society, an order based on synergies out of the mutual benefit is more likely to be accepted. The low levels of national populations, along with the limited means of communication and transportation, encourage self-sufficiency as a national goal. A faster industrial growth, followed by the effective transportation and logistic, and the revolution in information technology, have resulted in closely knitted world. Today, all the nations depend upon each other for capital, technology, markets, and supplies. Concomitant with this is a worldwide struggle for markets, fuel, and raw material. The market power of nations has shifted. The West is no longer supremely dominated, and the world has acquired a multipolar character in contrast to the bipolar character of yesteryears. Russia has shifted from being centrally planned economy to more open, market-based economy. She continues to derive advantages from the strength of the factors such as natural resources and trained manpower. She also continues to be the biggest oil producer. China, with the population over 1 billion, is getting organized to face the challenges in the emerging world economic order. She has made a conscious transition towards a market-based economy. Number of the less developed countries are building the industry that combines significant technology, low-cost labor, cheap resources to produce products and services that are marketed worldwide. In the past 5 years, their manufactured exports have more than doubled. Taiwan now sells TVs and steel to Japan. Japan has moved ahead. In the year 1980s, Japan was making fourth-generation computer, the highest of the high technologies. The phenomenal growth of information technology sector in India is an example of how opportunities for India are created as a result of global interdependence. Adverse effect of foreign trade. It has often been argued that international trade has a strong backwash effect as less developed countries, that is, its operations are fundamentally biased in favor of the richer and progressive regions and is in disfavor of the less developed countries. It has also been pointed out by the economist that the international trade leads to the international transfer of income from poor to rich countries. The UN reports on human resource indicators shows a widened gap in the living standards of the people of rich and poor nations. This widening gap has increased in the last decade ever since globalization of the world economy started. Also, international trade can adversely affect the process of capital formation in underdeveloped countries. However, there is a still lack of empirical evidence to prove that development of export sector has been at the cost of domestic sector. Foreign trade has not always stood in the way of domestic investment. The adverse effect seem to have been exaggerated, and it may be mentioned that in today's environment, globalization is a reality and it is important to accept it in right perspective instead of nurturing the old protectionist beliefs. Barriers to international business. It is not that easy to work at the international level. Along with the various effects, positive effects on the economy, and with the benefits to any economy, there are also barriers to the international business. Despite difficult distances, high cost of transportation, diverse languages, customs, traditions, and national level laws, risk and uncertainties, exchange control, and many other factors, one of the basic factors that must be taken into account in international business is the exporting country's foreign trade regulations. These may block or hinder export to all or some countries. Exporters may be required to follow elaborate and time-consuming procedures, including the preparation of the numerous documents. The immediate effect of such trade regulations, whether in the form of increased custom tariffs or other import charges, is an increase in the price of imported goods in the market of importing country. The increase gives the domestic producers of the import competing product a relative edge that may be sufficient to stimulate domestic sales or to protect their share of market. The trade restrictions also have the direct adverse effect on exporting country. There are two types of barriers which are imposed on the export and import of any economy to maintain the balance of trade and to affect the gross domestic product of any economy. The first is tariff barriers, another is non-tariff barriers. Tariff barriers in the international trade refers to the duties, taxes imposed on the international traded commodities when they cross the national boundaries, which make the product costlier than the product available in the local market. The various types of tariff barriers are export duties, import duties, transit duties, countervailing duties, which are also known as subsidies duties, and anti-dumping. Basically, the tariff barriers are imposed and the non-tariff barriers are imposed to protect the domestic or to reduce the negative effect of the international business. The second barriers are non-tariff barriers, which is a measure other than the tariff that raises an attack to the free flow of the goods in the overseas market. Non-tariff barriers are normally erected in the form of prior import deposits, import quotas, licensing, foreign exchange regulations, exchange formalities, government procurements, state trading, health, safety measures, canalization of trade, preferential arrangements, trading blocks, technical and administrative regulations, and economic and political wars. So students, let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. In the present day business environment, there is an increasing movements of goods and services across the nations. Even firms engaged in only domestic businesses need to be aware of the international business scene. The Indian economy, as is true of the economies of other industrialized nations, is so intricately linked to the international economics that even strictly domestic business is affected by what takes place in other countries. Although basic business decisions do not change as a marketers expand their business from domestic field to international field, the environment can be profoundly different. The major aspect of international business environment include the economic, cultural, legal, political environment. A company may use direct investment, exports, licensing, joint ventures, etc. to foray in foreign markets. The benefits of the international business include increase in the sales and profit, increase in the employment opportunities, increase in the living of standard of the people, and increase in the market share, and many other factors contribute. Whereas tariff and non-tariff measures act as a barrier to the international business efforts. Thank you.